The middle of Morisset in lockdown following an armed robbery. Dora Street was cordoned off and a perimeter established amid fears a device with wires attached had been left inside a pharmacy.
All the medical precinct has been evacuated, plus a few more shops this way.
Very concerning, especially for this area. Very, very concerning.
Behind the shops, police searched a car. Out the front, specialist equipment. After more than 2 hours of uncertainty, authorities finally gave the all clear.
They've since confirmed that the device inside the chemist is inert.
The drama began at 9:30 with public transport police from the nearby train station first to the scene. The armed robbery has come to an end inside the shop. The man's alleged to have drawn his weapon towards police, giving officers very little option to respond.
One of the PTC officers tasered that man and subdued him with the taser. He was conveyed to hospital for observation. He was then released from hospital. He's now at Belmont Police Station and he's assisting us with our inquiries.
Something you just wouldn't expect on a Thursday morning, but super proud of the way the girls handled themselves.
Mike Lorrigan, NBN News.
Gathered again on a site they've vowed to protect from development, the Friends of King Edward Park fear another fight is brewing. The new Crown Lands Bill, heralded by the Baird government as modernising and streamlining management, is seen by this group as a bid to make land easier to sell.
It's much more easily accessible to developers and people who want to use Crown land for private purposes.
Labor also opposes the changes, with Charlestown MP Jodie Harrison worried in particular for the Burwood Colliery Bowling Club site, saying she fears the legislation will give the government another valuable community asset to sell to the highest bidder. The Friends of King Edward Park have previously fought and won a battle to stop development here.
We won it on something called Rutledge, which was a High Court judgment in the 60s, which said that Crown land dedicated for public recreation must be accessible to the public as a right and not to be used as a source of private profit. Now that has gone out with this legislation.
But the government says public interest is the focus of the changes, promising more engagement to put the community back at the heart of decisions about their land. It says it will work closely with stakeholders before the bill's commencement in 2018.
It's a connection only a few will ever know. People like Kristen Rourke, who wouldn't be here without the Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service. On this day 2 years ago, Kristen's life hung in the balance after her ute was hit by a car police allege was travelling at nearly 200 kilometres an hour along the M1 at Morisset. It sent her vehicle careering off a bridge and left her with horrific injuries. The fact she's alive today is nothing short of a miracle.
It's hard to comprehend because I don't remember the accident. I don't remember about a week before the accident, and I don't remember 2 months after the accident. So it kind of is hard to comprehend. Being here is a bit surreal.
Mark Goulmere was the chopper pilot that day. He knows just how lucky Kristen is.
I think we're all very aware that that was the case at the time. Yeah, she's quite seriously injured.
I had to learn to walk, to talk, to eat, do my teeth. I had to learn the basics. I remember being a child, being a teenager in my 20s. I struggled with the last 10 years.
Today, he showed Kristen around the aircraft used to help save her life. The visit giving her the chance to say thank you.
Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous to see her today.
They gave me a second opportunity at living, I guess.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
That'll make it possible for children to get the specialised services they need no matter where they live.
We have one of these boats now, and the queue for it means that it is just the busiest boat in our whole fleet.
Hit a chair and knocked the chair off the end and just a bumper bar up on top of the house. So it's a fair impact.
Cahill was overlooked by Ange Postecoglou for the Socceroos clash with Thailand, allowing his club coach to utilise him against the Jets.
He's been training, he's getting through it, and I think it's exactly what he needs for the coming weeks.
The Jets say the 36-year-old can't be their only focus.
It's really good for him to be back in the league because, you know, kids love him and whatnot, but he's another player in that team and they've got a lot of quality around him. So we're not only wary of him, we're wary of the whole team.
Having signed a contract extension with Newcastle, Wayne Brown is determined to help the Jets bounce back from consecutive 2-0 losses.
We started the season really well and there's a lot of optimism around the place. So, you know, on football-wise, we need to get back to the performances we had in the first 3 games.
Meanwhile, the W-League Jets are also preparing for a trip to Melbourne, their second in a week. Newcastle will look to upset the Victory on Sunday following a frustrating 1-0 loss to City in round 1.
Overall, we have a better group of players. We have a lot of the girls like Claire and Sophie that have gone in with the young Matildas and they've improved a lot as well. And I think just our pre-season has been really good.
The Jets' American imports impressed on debut despite arriving just a week before the opening game.
We only had about 2 sessions with the whole team. We did surprise ourselves, I think. We settled in well and worked well together.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
It's been a while since Sam Pullman has been able to call Newcastle home, but it's now a reality after signing with the Giants in the revamped National Netball League.
I just love living in Newcastle, so to be able to be at home with my family and obviously my boyfriend is just nice, and this is where it all started, so yeah, it's nice to be back.
After 4 successful seasons in Adelaide, the 25-year-old wants to make the most of the new beginning. The league has undergone a transformation with more exposure and opportunity for netballers.
Yeah, I'll always be thankful for Adelaide and the fans because they were amazing at bringing me in, but the opportunity to come home and a new league was just something that I couldn't say no to.
Pullman is the only Hunter-bred player to be playing professionally in the National League. With an extra team in New South Wales, the defender believes more local players now have a better chance of making it to the top level.
Now that I'm back, I'm hoping to be involved in Newcastle Netball and the Hunter and have be that role model for girls to actually know that someone from here has reached the top level.
This government must step up. This Prime Minister must not put my community and others through another Christmas of hell.
Newcastle, a city on the move and a region reaching new heights. Huge growth is predicted over the next 2 decades, but developers say it could be stifled by the state government.
If they don't deliver certainty to the market, the real worry is that investors will just stay away from the Hunter.
The Hunter branch of the Property Council today hosted the state's chief planner to talk about the latest regional plan, at the same time criticising the Baird government's plans to review the Special Infrastructure Contribution Scheme, the amount of money developers have to pay to fund public infrastructure projects.
There has to be certainty around the level of that charge and also about where the money raised actually goes in terms of the infrastructure that's delivered on the ground.
Property Council warns the uncertainty could ward off developers.
They'll take their money elsewhere to places like Western Sydney, where the population is booming, where there is infrastructure like WestConnex, rail, road being delivered every day.
When you're looking at a process like this, why we're going out to consult is to find out where the infrastructure is needed, where the money should be spent, what are the catalyst pieces, and that'll be very much a collaborative process with the industry as well.
The government is beginning a consultation process and says there will be clarity in the new year.
I think Newcastle is at the front of a very exciting era. It's going to be a place to want to come to.
Mike Lorrigan, NBN News.
A fitting tribute right on time to commemorate 98 years since the end of World War I. Newcastle City Hall's clock tower not as reliable. Wreaths were laid and songs sung. As Newcastle took time to remember those who helped make our country what it is today.
I know that it was when the peace treaty was signed at the end of World War I, and we remember the soldiers who fought and died.
Why is it important to do that?
It's important so that we don't forget.
I've learnt that it's when soldiers stopped fighting in the war. It means a lot to so many people.
It doesn't hurt them to say thanks for making the place a little bit safe.
In Wallsend, the community gathered to pay its respects with a traditional service, while at Maitland High School there was another touching tribute with the unveiling of the restored Flag of Honour.
Oh, it took months. It seriously took months.
Each name representing a student who enlisted to serve in World War I, stitched more than a century ago by students of the then Girls' High School.
360 names, 60 of whom did not come home.
So we sat there with a UV torch in the dark and translated the names, matched them to the honour roll names, and continue from there. I'm very happy with it, and I know that it'll be there for a very long time now.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Returning without any points and their skipper on crutches. Coach Mark Jones is counting the cost.
Torn some ligaments again, and that's probably as bad as a break.
In slow motion, the severity of the injury is plain to see.
That's 3 centre-backs we've lost in the first 7 weeks, so it's extremely difficult to deal with. And obviously Nigel being our captain, that's a big blow.
Andrew Houle's cross to Morton Nordstrand was served up on a platter, but the finish was sprayed into the crowd. 10 minutes later, City were on the score sheet. Their second was spectacular, Fornaroli sending Melbourne fans into raptures. The Jets pulled one back before the break, with Andrew Naboo scoring his first goal for Newcastle. Jones left Taru missed opportunities in a scoreless second half.
And we turned the ball over at times when we shouldn't have, but every time we kept the ball for more than 4 passes, we could have scored.
Some of the country's best Ironmen heading for shore. At the front of the pack is Redhead's Daniel Collins, leading the likes of Shannon Eckstein and Matt Poole into the ski leg.
I saw a video actually of me coming out in front, and I thought if my ski leg was just that little bit stronger, I could have maybe held on.
Collins was overcome by his bigger and more experienced rivals in the craft legs, but finished the second round of the Summer of Surf at Newport Beach with a strong result.
Being fresh back from Europe, I didn't think my fitness levels were quite there, but getting an 8th this weekend was definitely a surprise for me.
Considered a genuine chance to make the open water team at the Tokyo Olympics, Collins will continue to compete in Ironman races in the meantime. Qualifying for February's National Series, a very likely possibility.
That'd be pretty special. I mean, the childhood dream was always I want to be on the Nutrigrain box, so to make it and actually say that I'm racing in the Nutrigrain Series would be, very special.
Things like lightning we've been able to rule out. There's certainly concerns out there that these fires are deliberately lit, and if the evidence points to that, they will be prosecuted.
Once fertile bushland reduced to ash. There's no doubt the Lone Pine fire has taken a toll on the Port Stephens landscape, but what's unknown is just what impact it's had on the local koala population.
We hope to get some animals, but it's not looking good at this stage. We could have mass extinctions in this area.
Rescue Group Port Stephens Koalas is bracing for a spike in the number of sick and injured animals. Koalas like Rob, who was hit by a car while fleeing smoke south of Clarence Town.
We have one particular koala that was found on the Pacific Highway just south of the Karua turnoff, clinging to a burnt stump. So there was nothing left.
The group fears not only has the already dwindling koala population suffered mass casualties, but survivors could also find themselves in trouble, left with no other option but to look for food closer to busy roads and built-up areas. It won't be until volunteers can gain access to the fireground that they'll know just how dire the situation is.
This is the breeding season at the moment where the animals are moving around a lot anyway. So to get a good indication, we really need to get some feet on the ground and get out there and search the area. And we're hoping that the public will be our eyes and ears.
Amanda Bennett, NBN News.
Some of the bright faces of Hunter Valley peer support group CEDAR in a new short film discussing their experiences with the NDIS. The 9-minute documentary promotes the importance of self-advocacy and speaking up. It shows those living with a disability that they're not alone and are a vital part of the community. At the film's official premiere in Charlestown today, some of its stars.
Hello, my name is Jacob. I'm 24 years old.
I love being on the film. I love being on screen. I'm an actor. I love acting.
And while those involved in the film have had positive experiences with the rollout, they recognise not all share their views.
We know people that are really disappointed with their packages, or that feel like their lives haven't changed at all. We say let's be optimistic, let's have a glass half full approach. It's a new scheme, it's a young scheme.
Mike Lorrigan, NBN News.
Supercross in Sydney and in full flight. Aussie Chad Reed, one of the first to test out this year's course, admitting the 22-metre finish line jump had him a little nervous.
Something that I only get to ride once a year, so took a little, sizing up. It feels like it's 20 metres taller than where you're normally used to.
The event will serve as a key warm-up for Reed ahead of next year's racing season in the US, where he'll be chasing a third world title.
I didn't fly, 28 hours, and spend a week away from my family for nothing. I want to put on a good show, and first and foremost, I want to win.
There will be some extra competition for Reed this weekend. Four-time world champion Ryan Villapoto is coming out of retirement for a one-off race.
If I can race with the guys for a short amount of time, I'd be pumped. Put a good show on for the crowd and walk back on the plane with no scratches on me.
Over 4,000 tonnes of dirt have been brought in to build these jumps, and the riders are promising a spectacular show for the 25,000 fans expected here.
I think there's definitely going to be some close racing just because of the stadiums is a little bit tighter. There's the tunnel, which even makes it a little tighter. So things are going to be really close. Yeah, come out and check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Two men and a woman have been arrested over the assaults, which allegedly occurred here on Beaumont Street near the intersection of Cleary Street at around 12:30 this morning. Police say it began when a passerby spotted a 29-year-old man attacking a 32-year-old woman in a parked car. When the 28-year-old tried to intervene, police allege the Good Samaritan was set upon by the pair and assaulted. A witness called police. When officers arrived, they found the pair nearby, along with a third person, a 20-year-old man. Police allege the 20-year-old attacked one of the officers, punching them several times in the head. Thankfully, the officer wasn't seriously injured. The 20-year-old man was soon charged with resist police, affray and larceny. The woman was issued with a court attendance notice for resisting or hindering police and assault occasioning actual bodily harm. The 29-year-old man is currently in hospital as a precaution. Police expect to lay charges when he's released.
This is the home that Waste built.
We've got a lot of cladding that's made from pallets and recycled materials that we got off a rubbish pile.
16-year-old Jasmine Stewart and Lani Pritchard are the brains behind the ambitious tiny house project, which came together today.
So we have a lounge that folds up into 2 bunk beds, and we've got our kitchen as well. It's a little bench.
Keeping with the recycling theme, a specially made denim wall and denim bed squabs helped make the little house homely and functional. The project formed part of Transition Newcastle's Fair Share Festival, which this year focused on teaching people how to reuse their rubbish, from converting old pallets into rustic planter boxes to breathing new life into old furniture and even making a fashion statement. According to organisers, the day was all about reacquainting people with practical skills that have been lost over the years.
It's about teaching people to be resourceful and to just do stuff with the things that they already have. So rather than thinking, I want a new chair and going to the shop and buying it, having a look at what they've already got and thinking about it differently.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
In a life often challenging with many boundaries, today a rare chance to experience the freedom of flight. And an opportunity to get a whole new perspective. Plane after plane took off from the Royal Newcastle Aero Club, on board dozens of sick or disadvantaged children and their families.
It was bumpy, but the bumps were the best bit because it was really fun.
The wind may have made things a little rocky, but that only added to the ride organised by charity Fun Flight.
It was awesome. It was good seeing Tyler smile and have a great time up there, but I was petrified.
Tyler has cystic fibrosis, a condition which can often make enjoying the simple things challenging. What does it mean to be able to do this with your family?
It means a lot because it was really fun and it's something we don't really get to do often.
A special day which touched so many.
with seeing the world from a different perspective than they're used to seeing it, and knowing that there is something else out there. And it really, seeing the world from up there does give you a whole nother perspective.
And certainly a day many will never forget. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
He's one of Australia's greatest exports on two wheels. And Reid didn't disappoint. Second on the opening lap, Reid was chasing US champion Ryan Villopoto until lap 4. The two-time world champion couldn't be overtaken to claim back-to-back wins. Last night, Reid received a hero's welcome, then raced out of the gate in his opening heat. He narrowly avoided this incident in the dying stages to easily qualify for the final.
Want to loosen up a little bit, man. These crowds kind of got me a little pumped up. I was even, I could feel it, and I want to win.
Just for good measure, Chad helped Australia to a win in the special battle with the United States. In the main event, the 34-year-old settled into second early. He made his move on Justin Brayton on lap 14. The Australian never looked like losing from there. The win gives him even more motivation for the American series.
I'm well aware of my time running out, and man, I want to fight hard all the way to the end, and I love coming home. I don't know why I'm emotional, but just, man, I've been working really hard the last 2 months, 3 months.
He's always in her thoughts, but Sarah Dunn feels especially close to her boy here at Harry's Climb, a playground built and named in his honour.
It brings us joy, and we see his spirit. It's a living memorial. We see there's nothing better than me pulling up to my children's school and seeing it covered in children and happy laughs and squeals.
Inspired by their son's love of climbing, Sarah and her husband Dean rallied with the Singleton community to build the gym at Harry's school, St Catherine's College, after losing him suddenly in September 2012. He was just 9.
That's a special place for us, and will always be a special place for us.
It's also part of a growing legacy the family is creating through charity work. Sarah's just been named Lifeline's Upper Hunter Steel Magnolia winner, nominated by her friend Nikki.
Despite the terrible tragedy of losing their son, they have managed to rise above all that and, put a lot into, what has been a concerted effort to raise funds for various charities through the Hunter.
Camp Quality is the main beneficiary. Last year, Sarah raised $14,000 riding 1,000 kilometres. She's motivated not just by Harry's memory, but a desire to inspire his siblings, Luke and Georgia.
It's a conscious decision that Dean and I make every day, and it's not easy, to set that example for them, that it's okay to move forward and live your life, but we always love and remember him, and every day.
We've been through a tragedy, but there's a lot of other people out there that live through tragedies and worse scenarios than what we do as well. So for us, it's our chance to give back to the community, but we also get so much from that community.
Team Harry will ride again next year for several charities, including the 1000 Ks for Kids ride in September, which will coincide with the 5th anniversary of his death.
You could easily shut down, but we decide to go with optimism and positivity, and that's what he would love. It always comes back to trying to actually make him proud.
The whole of the Hunter is proud. To support Sarah's work, head to our website.
Staying strong and battling on.
Good work, girls. Bring your right leg up now.
In the face of an often hidden and debilitating illness, perinatal depression, which encompasses both pre- and postnatal.
I'm the first to acknowledge that parenting is certainly a blessing, but it also can be an incredible challenge. And the most challenging part is failure to acknowledge that.
Newcastle mother, mental health advocate and wellness coach Emma Thompson is working to shine a light on the disease by bringing people together.
Part of the biggest problem surrounding mental illness is that you feel like you're alone, you feel like you're the only one going through it, and that is in fact not the case.
Nationally, 1 in 10 expecting mums and 1 in 20 dads are diagnosed with prenatal depression. That number grows after the birth of the child, with 1 in 7 new mums and up to 1 in 10 dads suffering postnatal depression.
I feel that there's a definite need for men to have the same discussion, and so that, dads who are feeling pressure or who are feeling the struggle to adjust to parenthood can actually go somewhere where they too can network and feel supported.
While the symptoms of pre- or postnatal depression differ in every person, common symptoms include panic attacks, constant worrying about the child, along with mood swings and crying. The advice from medical professionals is to seek treatment sooner rather than later. Perinatal Depression Week concludes on Friday. For more information, head to our website. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Initially, there were fears the in-form Bogard could miss 12 weeks, but it's now hoped he'll be back before Christmas.
Bogues is 6 weeks at this point, so that's good. That's sort of the least amount of time that he could have had out.
Newcastle's extraordinary run with injuries has claimed 5 defenders and a keeper. In response, the Jets have signed former Sydney FC, Adelaide and Australian under-23 representative Ian Fife. The 34-year-old will cover for Daniel Mullen for at least 6 weeks. Coincidentally, it was Mullen's father, the coach of Fife's club side Campbelltown City, who recommended the defender.
He was very glowing in the praise of Fifey, and he's a good footballer, he's a good lad and he's a good communicator, and his expectations are high, and hopefully that can press us to another level.
Fife hasn't played in 2 months, but Jones hasn't ruled out using him against the Mariners. Ben Kantarovski could also return from a knee injury.
Pending a decent week of training and nothing else cropping up, hopefully he was in line for selection.
The same goes for Chinese import Ma Lei Lei following his stunner for the youth side.
Lele was quite impressive early on in that game and did enough to warrant maybe looking at as a squad member.
Jones has also been impressed with the progress of Devante Kloot. He could feature in the starting 11 despite getting limited opportunities so far.
It's been difficult with game time, but it's hard at the same time to complain. I played more, I think, in the first game for the Jets than I did all last season.
The 21-year-old is more excited than most about the F3 derby.
When I first signed, I said to my family, I'm going to play my first derby. Never got to play in a derby, so I'm excited and I can't wait to see what it's going to be like.
Guns drawn and with reinforcements at the ready, heavily armed police moved in, quickly surrounding a Gilliston Heights home. Before long, they made an arrest. Forced to the ground and handcuffed,
The man was taken to nearby Maitland Police Station for questioning. One of 5 alleged associates of the Nomads and Finks outlaw motorcycle gangs apprehended today across the Hunter. The raids involving local police, specialist officers from the Tactical Operations Unit, the Rescue Squad, the Dog Unit and the Riot Squad.
Supplying of prohibited drugs and firearms in this area won't be tolerated.
Officers stormed 5 properties at Gilliston Heights, Raymond Terrace and Rutherford, along with 2 homes at Talara. Police say they seized several items, including a loaded, sawn-off shotgun, allegedly found at a bedside.
There was a large amount of drugs, a large amount of cash we believe has been obtained through the proceeds of crime.
Those arrested were 3 men, aged 23 to 27, along with 2 women, 31 and 32.
We'll be very robust in how we investigate and approach the supply of prohibited drugs and firearms within this area. We make no apologies for that.
The Public Service Association says the Four Corners report tragically reinforces the failings of a system designed to protect vulnerable children. The 3-month investigation into residential group homes found widespread abuse and neglect, while some private providers were found to have put profits above welfare. The union wants the state government to take back control of residential services for children needing out-of-home care.
It really highlights the issues that the non-government sector has: inexperienced staff, money that's not being spent appropriately.
Newcastle-based child protection advocate Helen Keevers has warned against knee-jerk reactions, but says there's no doubt the system is broken.
We don't want children to come into out-of-home care, and we don't want them being moved around out-of-home care until they end up in this sort of situation. So we need to work more with families. A lot of those programs have been cut back or defunded.
She's also calling for greater scrutiny.
We need spot checks. We need people advocating for these children.
Labor says the government has failed to ensure stringent checks and balances are in place, and that providers who breach their obligations should have their contracts torn up. The Department of Family and Community Services says it will undertake an urgent audit of Premier Youth Works, one of the private providers identified in the investigation. While the out-of-home care sector is also undergoing a major reform, the government's expected to announce its new contract holders next year.
a road safety program that's hitting home. Students shown firsthand what happens when a car hits a pedestrian at 60 kilometres an hour.
Rider really gives the students the tools and the strategies to make the smart decisions.
The Rider program, created by Road Safety Education and coordinated by Rotary, today celebrated teaching its 5,000th student in Newcastle. The group of Year 10 pupils from St Paul's Booragul learning valuable lessons about responsibility.
About being sensible in the car and don't get distracted by your peers, to always remain focused.
Rider has been running since 2001, offering the accounts of accident survivors and identifying risky behaviours.
Over that same period of time, the number of young people aged between 17 and 24 killed on the road has fallen by about 50%.
But 2016 is bucking the trend. In the Hunter, 42 lives have been lost in road accidents. That's 7 more than last year. They're among the 337 across the state. That's an increase of almost 40.
One young person dies every day on our roads and 20 people are critically injured, and this is a statistic that you don't see.
It's their life and their choices that they can make out there to keep themselves and their friends safe, and the rider messages are there, and if they apply them, it's going to help them stay safe on the road.
Mike Lorrigan, NBN News.
After 3 straight losses, the presence of your millionaire owner is enough to keep you on your toes. But converting chances on game day hasn't been as easy.
If you look at the last game against City, I believe we created clear-cut chances, just didn't take them, and I think that's a good indication that we're in the right spot.
Newcastle's defensive stocks are stretched to the limit. There's some good news, however, with Ben Kantarovski close to returning, while Ian Fife's arrival is expected to provide much-needed experience.
Unfortunately, with a couple of injuries, there's less and less, let's say, experienced players, so I think it does come up to a few of us to lead that and to be vocal to help young players.
Despite having led the side previously in the absence of Nigel Bogard, Mateo Polyak is expected to be overlooked as skipper. Wayne Brown's more vocal on-ground presence likely to get him the nod.
Communication needs to be better. We have to work harder for each other. We have to kind of know that if other one makes mistakes, that you'll be covered.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
This year has been both a challenge because of the nature of how the results have finished, but also I've never finished a race like I finished New York and had that desire to give it another good crack. Whether it's your dad or your brothers or cousins or mates, check in, see how they're going, encourage them to talk, encourage them to get their prostate checked. It's always a fun conversation. But mate, if it gives you 10 more years or 1 more year of your dad or your brother or your uncle or your cousin, then it's a conversation worth having.